Today, we are diving into a huge question, one that I think we've all asked ourselves. Why do our best laid plans so often fail? We're going to explore a really powerful way of thinking that might just hold the key to solving some of the most tangled problems we face in public health, in policy, and maybe even in our own lives.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? It haunts policymakers, it haunts CEOs, it probably haunts all of us. You see a problem, you come up with a really smart-sounding solution, you throw time and money at it, and then somehow things don't really get better. Sometimes they actually get worse. And look, this isn't just theoretical. Think about these real-world head-scratchers. The US builds this enormous, integrated healthcare system for its veterans, but people are literally dying because of failures in scheduling. Or Australia passes this tough, world-leading anti-tobacco law, and practically overnight, this whole new industry for cigarette skins pops up just to cover the scary warning labels. We spend billions upon billions trying to fix health disparities, and yet they just stick around. So what on earth is going on here?
Well, what if the problem isn't the solutions we're coming up with? What if the real problem is how we're seeing the problem in the first place? This is the big idea for today. We're about to uncover the culprit behind all these failures. And you know what? It's a way of thinking that we all fall into every single day. Okay, let's get right to it. That culprit I just mentioned, it has a name. Let's call it the linear trap. So take a look at this. It probably seems pretty familiar, right? This is our brain's default setting for solving problems. A reform issue happens, we make a decision, and then we roll out the implementation. It's so neat, it's logical, it's a nice, clean, straight line. It just feels so simple, doesn't it? Problem A, veterans are waiting too long. Solution B, fix the scheduling software. Problem A, smoking is dangerous. Solution B, put graphic warnings on the packs. It's intuitive. It makes us feel like we have everything under control. But, and this is a big but, reality is almost never a straight line. You know, as one policy analyst, Jake Chapman, puts it, this whole linear thing is just, it's not equipped for the messy, complex problems we actually face. It completely misses the feedback loops that can either supercharge our efforts or cancel them out entirely. It misses the tangled web of connections and the simple truth that you can never, ever just change one thing. So, if linear thinking is the trap, then what's the escape route? Well, it's a completely different approach. It's called systems thinking. Now, before we go any further, let's get a really clear definition on the table. The pioneer in this field, Ludwig von Bertalanffy, he put it this way. The key phrase there is mutual interaction. See, a system isn't just a pile of stuff. It's the relationships and the interactions between the parts that give it life. Think about an ecosystem, or a family, or a city. It's all about the connections. So what does it actually mean to be a systems thinker? Well, it means you start to zoom out. You start seeing the whole forest, not just one or two trees. You hunt for hidden connections. You stop playing the blame game and start looking at the underlying structure of a problem. And maybe most importantly, you start looking for those tiny little places where one small, smart push can create huge, cascading change. All right, so let's make this real. What does this new way of thinking actually look like when you put it into practice? How does it help us see the world more clearly? And this slide says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got our old friend, the simple but wrong straight line. And on the right, well, that's a systems map. It's a loop. It's got feedback. It shows how our actions actually circle back around to influence the original situation, creating this constant dynamic dance of monitoring, assessing, and adapting. This isn't a one-and-done fix. It's an ongoing process. Now, at the very heart of any system, you'll find feedback loops. You've got two main types. A positive, or reinforcing loop, is what amplifies change. Think of a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and bigger. Then you have a negative, or balancing loop, which seeks stability, kind of like a thermostat kicking on to keep your room at the perfect temperature. If you can figure out which loops are in play, you're halfway to understanding how a system is going to behave. And that brings us to maybe one of the most exciting ideas in systems thinking, leverage points. The incredible thinker Donella Mayos described them as these special places where a tiny, gentle nudge can unleash a massive change. See, linear thinking tells us to just push harder on the problem. Systems thinking tells us to step back, find that hidden leverage point, and apply just the right amount of pressure. Okay, so now we're armed with these new tools. Feedback loops, leverage points, seeing the whole map. Let's go back and finally solve those mysteries we started with.
So let's revisit the Veterans Health Administration. What was really going on? Was it just a case of a bad scheduling policy?
Well, a systems view tells a completely different story. Look at this map. You can see right away the problem wasn't a single point of failure. It was a total breakdown in the connections between all the different parts. You had the patient, the hospital, the local clinic, counseling services. They were all supposed to be nodes in a network of care. But when those links between them frayed and broke, the whole system failed the veteran. The problem wasn't the schedule, it was the structure. And what about that Australian tobacco policy? Well, back in 2012, they passed the Plain Packaging Act, a classic, straight-line solution. But the system responded. By early 2013, a brand new market had popped up out of nowhere for cigarette skins, designed for the sole purpose of covering up those graphic warnings. The policy pushed, and the system adapted to weaken the blow. It's a textbook case of something called policy resistance. And this perfectly captures an idea from an old cybernetics pioneer named Ross Ashby. He figured out that when you try to force a complex system to do something, it almost always finds a way to push back. It tries to hold on to its old behavior, even if it has to invent a new way to do it. Okay, so you might be thinking, this is really interesting for governments and big organizations, but what does this have to do with me? Well, it has everything to do with you, because you are part of countless systems every single day. This really isn't just some abstract theory for a textbook. It's a super practical way to better understand your job, your community, your family, even your own health. It helps you shift from asking, okay, who's the blame for this, to asking, what's the underlying structure here that keeps creating the same pattern over and over again? And I want to leave you with this really profound thought from Danella Meadows. She said, the goal isn't to control systems. That's the old linear way. The real goal is to listen to them, to understand them, to, as she put it, dance with them. It's about working with the natural flows and structures to guide things toward a better outcome. So the next time you run up against a really stubborn problem, whether it's at work or at home, I want you to just try to take a step back. Stop looking for that one single cause or the one person to blame. Instead, ask yourself, what system am I a part of right now? What are the connections that I'm not seeing? And the big one, where is my leverage point? The answer? Well, it just might surprise you.